This video is brought to you by Recurrent, an essential EV tool that gives free access to TFL EV viewers in the US. With Recurrent, EV shoppers can check range and battery info on used cars. EV owners can connect to compare their range and battery health to similar vehicles. And EV sellers can use Recurrent to get more money for their sales. With Recurrent, we can find, drive, and sell electric cars positively. Click on the link in the description below to get free access to Recurrent's amazing EV tools.
Howdy, folks. Check it out. That and this is the new Lucid Gravity. Yes. And this is their SUV. This has finally come to the market. Actually, technically, it's already been in the market for a little while, and newer versions of this are hitting the market right now, actually. But yeah, it's a pretty new vehicle, right? And what you're going to get in this video is a prerequisite of all the things you need to know about it, including pricing, which, by the way, starts at about $80,000 and with this fully loaded version goes to about $95,000. Crazy range, 450 miles. Giant battery, 123 kilowatt hour battery, huge. And the odd thing is, even though it looks a lot like the Air, it doesn't share really any parts with it. Almost every part on this vehicle is new or sort of significantly upgraded. And that's what you're looking at right here. This is not a station wagon, it's actually an SUV. And even though it's sitting in its low setting right now, it can be lifted to over 9 inches with its air suspension system. And yes, it is all-wheel drive, that's how they come standard. This one does have 4-wheel steering, and it puts out well over 800 horsepower, well over 900 foot-pounds of torque. So it's a beast. There's a lot more. You see, they wanted to build a vehicle that allowed you to bring with several people. That's including a third row seat. But not just a third row seat. Believe it or not, there's enough room in that third row seat for adults. That's according to Lucid. And we will be testing that using the Fat Guy. And we'll be testing it actually against many of its competitors, which is huge because they're just going to be right there and we'll be able to sample each one. So what are we looking at here? As I mentioned, it's pretty much all new. That means that even though it looks very similar to the Air, it's not. Even the front end design is slightly different. They actually moved the lights off a little bit, and that gives you more room under here because it does have a frunk, and there's a cool little option which you're going to see later on, which comes with the frunk if you want it. I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with seating. 8 cubic feet of cargo space in there. And you can see with the character lines, the way they designed it, at least with the front end section, all of this looks very similar to the Air, but it is different. The stampings are different. The components are slightly different. It's kind of funny because at a distance, I swear to God, they look the same, but nope, they're all different. Then you go and see the sides, and then things really start to change right about here. This garnish is really important. This steel pewter finish garnish here, which covers this whole area. This is really where the design detail jumps out. And you can also see the curvature of the roof. They have to make a bit of a teardrop design to give it extremely good aerodynamic qualities. One of the reasons why this thing has around a 450 mile range is because it's super, super slippery. So driven the right way, you get that maximum range, and that has to do with its shape. It's certainly not shaped like an SUV, like a big box. That's part of the reason why, is the way they designed the roof and the slight spoiler here. Also, one thing I wanted to point out is that they have this cool little garnish. I don't really know what it's for, but it looks interesting. And then they have the clamshell style rear end. This sort of mirrors the front end in terms of its design, the way this opens, which is super cool because when it does open, the thing that it does, look at that, the whole section, including the taillight, it goes up. Now you may be wondering, well, that's not legal. Yes, normally that would be correct. However, there is lighting below, which supplements the lighting that's in the hatch, meaning that emergency lighting and whatnot is still there. So if you have the hatch open, they can still see your lighting. That's kind of the reason why more vehicles don't have lights, like tail lights and whatnot, integrated into their opening tailgate. They want to make sure that when the tailgate's open, you still have all of those emergency lights as needed. That's why those are there. And yes, the opening here is pretty small, but there's some good news, and that is, once again, I told you about these third row seats. It also has a ton of cargo capacity. Seating. It's one of the major things they're stressing with the new Gravity, and this is actually one of the seating surfaces. That's right, you're looking at a Gravity love seat. Now, not only is it more handsome because of me, but frankly speaking, there are functionality components to this that are extraordinary. That's including this little strap here, which goes right here. When they were designing this, they actually moved a few things around in order to make this area more usable. Now, it is an 8 cubic foot storage compartment here, and for the pièce de résistance, cup holders on both sides. One of the reasons you buy a vehicle like this is because you want that third row. Darn it, so do lots of Americans, even though they rarely use them. So in this case, what Lucid did is they brought competitors that are on par or even slightly above in terms of pricing, range, power, and of course demographics. And what we're going to do is we're going to see whether the largest human being at TFL can fit comfortably in these vehicles' passenger areas. All right, competition consists of the BMW X7, the Cadillac IQ, the Rivian R1S, and of course, the reason we're here today, the Lucid Gravity. Wie geht's, meine Herren? Okay, so this is the way the Germans do it. So first I'm going to sit in this row, and I already have this seat set for me. I am around 6'1", and yeah, good leg room. Headroom, not the best. It's okay, but bear in mind that you have this whole area here. So if you lean over to the left, you're kind of rubbing a little bit. If you're roaming with the toupe, you're definitely going to rub a little bit up here. But the most important thing is, how does a fat guy fit in the third row? Let's see. Yeah, I fit fine. As long as the person in front of me doesn't have legs. Okay, here we go. And it's coming back. Stop. No, really. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Headroom runs out back here completely, but I can still sit somewhat upright. So thank you, BMW, for that. Part of that has to do with the shape of the vehicle, and I have just enough room for my legs. Roman or Andre, with their freakishly long legs, would not fit back here as comfortably. So, shall we try the other one? Now we got Cadillac, partner. What you think about that? Yeehaw! All right, so this is pretty simple, and it's a lot more like what you would get in, say, a Suburban or something like that, even though they're not related at all. No, I mean, really. Under this floor is a huge battery, nearly double the size of the one that's in the Gravity, and it's really, really high. One of the reasons why the floor is so high. So, yes, you have a commanding position, but no, it is not for off-roading. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, seats up and out of the way. Yeah, I got good leg room. It's pretty good. I'm able to get my feet behind the seat, and I have just enough headroom. It's a lot more than the BMW, but it's still, it's a little tight for an adult, but it is doable. We're gonna try this, but it's a little closer than I'd like. Yeah. In order for me to sit comfortably here and have room behind me, my legs have to really go into the scallop. See how it's scalloped here? I have to shove them in here. If I have them out here, well, I'm splay, but then if I shut the door, gotta bring that knee in a little bit. My feet do fit under the seat, which is a plus. But yeah, I would have thought there would have been a little bit more space here. Headroom's fine, but legroom, I thought there'd be a little bit more. Okay, Welcome to Rivian. Yeah, the cameraman was kind of shaking as I was pulling the seat back so I could have enough space in the front, because that's not a lot of leg room in there, but I think it's just enough for me to get in. So here we go. Important note about the R1. Okay, my knees. There's these little metal things right here. These little things, which are really cool little like carabiner things, but man, do they hurt when your knees hit them. And in order for me to shut the door, yeah, I kind of have to squeeze towards that. I guess I could sit kind of like this. My feet do fit underneath. Size 13 boots, they do fit. That's good. Legroom, it's not good. Headroom, I have enough here, right? So that's good. But one of the things about the Rivian that's so bizarre is the way they design the doors, I'm sure this is for safety, is that you really have to duck when you get in and out of this thing. Check that out. And now I have to get into the third row. I'm in, and because of the way the roof is designed, where they have this extra thing here, my headroom is good. But, all right, here we go. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's okay. It's actually better than I thought it would be for legroom. Andre told me that the legroom wasn't too bad, and he was right. I don't fit. There we go, much better. I honestly don't think this is bad. I'd say it's as good as the Cadillacs, but the second row isn't great. So there's a bit of a trade-off. Yeah. Let's hope the Gravity has a little bit more space. Okay, and now we end on the Gravity. Now, first of all, wanted to point out something, and this is actually a pretty big deal. You may notice that the other ones I had to step up into, even the BMW, but this one I'm lowering myself into. This is a much lower platform. It's like stepping into a sedan or a station wagon, which, depending on how you like your vehicle, is a good thing or a bad thing. So let's give it a shot. The seat is all the way, or is back as far as I need it to go, I should say. This actually gives you a lot of leg, whoa, lots of leg room. Okay. Oh-ho, Nathan got leg room. As a matter of fact, yeah, and it makes sense. Look, these guys aren't going to take these competing vehicles, place them together conveniently, knowing that they're going to lose this, right? They knew for sure that putting a fat guy into this vehicle would be a win for them because they've got gobs of space. But the question is, see, this is a third row vehicle. They call it a third row, a 3-row SUV. Holds up to 7 people. So can this chunky monkey fit in that back seat? All right, and then this automatically goes back. Wait a minute. There we go. These headrests, if you don't pop them up, they can be uncomfortable, but this is not the only car that does that. Folks, positives. Gobs of legroom. Plenty of legroom. That's really good. Negative. The roof does, if I lean my head back, I'm definitely touching right here. But leaning forward, and I have bad posture, not much of a problem. Also, I do like the fact that there are windows here, but once the seat is forward, this panel here, not a lot of space to get in and out of if you're a big guy. With that being said, 2 adults can fit back here without much of a problem. That's even really tall people. Notice the height of the roof lines on these vehicles that the Lucid is competing with. You're going to notice that they're a lot higher, and a lot of that has to do with packaging, but it also has to do with the whole SUV vibe that they're trying to impart. Lucid, on the other hand, is a lot more like a station wagon, which is something that many people still miss and love. But the best part is, if you want it to be higher, yes, it does have a suspension that will lift it up over 9 inches. Okay, it's a little bit complex back here, but the good news is that it's very utilitarian, meaning that these seats can fold flat, third row, but there are a couple steps here, and let's see if I can get it right. Now, first of all, you do want to fold this down like that. Now, in order to fold this completely flat, you have to remove this section here. See how it goes down in there? Yeah, so let's see if I can get the handle here. Minivans are easier, just so you know. And then I could put this carpet thing back on there, and ba-boom, you have a flat floor. Otherwise, you could use this for storage. Now, I hit this button here, and that folds. There we go, giving you 120 cubic feet of cargo space, which is class leading. Even though it's a very small looking space, very usable. But there's more, because you have these little cubbies here too. And there's one on each side, giving you some extra storage space on top of that. Now, one thing I did want to mention is the third row seat does have cup holders and air conditioning vents. But if you look over here, see that hump? That hump is there because mechanically they needed a place to put the motor and that entire rear end, which, by the way, does steer up to 3 degrees. All that has to go somewhere, and that's where they put it. And see how this piece goes in there, allowing you flat storage, sort of. Good news, it actually does have a rear wiper. Even though this is a very tiny little piece of glass, they do have a rear wiper integrated way up there, which I'm very happy about. This car can tow, so this is partially removable, and then you could put in a towing feature, making this vehicle capable of towing up to 6,000 pounds. Well, let's pop this puppy open. Yes, that is NACS charging, my friends. And it goes to 123 kilowatt hour battery, 828 horsepower max potential, and 909 pound-feet of torque. Now, this is all-wheel drive, so there's 2 motors, front and rear. And the motors themselves have new components in them as well. Once again, a lot of this car is pretty much all new. Okay, really important point is that you have 22-inch wheels in the front, they're black painted, and then 23-inch wheels in the back, and it's covered by Pirelli P0s. Let me show you one of the party tricks. See if we can get this to open. What? Oh no, yes I did. That is a drum set, a table that you can have right in front of you, good size for a laptop, and you have a USB-C right here to plug into. I do like that. And having this vent right next to it, that's cool. Now let's look here. We have an entire suite of things on this screen that we can play with, namely venting. There we go. All that right there. Heated seat as well. That is pretty cool. I do like having the vents there. Once again, there's another vent right here, and being able to control that from the back. I do like that, and heated seats. All of that is right here in this panel. So that is very convenient. This is as far down as this window goes. I can't make it go any further down. That is a bit of a bummer. It's also a very small opening in terms of height. But check this out. Okay, I'm gonna go up. Yeah, it's pretty slow. But I'm gonna hit this again. Ta-da! Sunscreen. I didn't wish you to see me, but I want to see you. This is kind of cool. It rises up. It's not one of those that clips up here. It actually has its own thing. So when you want to close it, yep, you got to do that on its own. A little tiny door. That's so cute. And then the window once again, eventually opening to that. I can't get it any lower. That's a bit of a bummer. I think one of the reasons why it takes some time for the door to open is that it has to drop the window a little bit. And I think that's in order to clear this, and also probably for vacuum. So now we're in. This is a 34-inch OLED screen. However, the bottom measurement is closer to 36 inches altogether. So either measurement I think would be accurate. And technically, it's a couple screens in one. Let me explain. This screen here is separate. We'll get to that in a second. This is navigation. This is obviously gauges, and everything over here has to do with lighting, windshield wipers. All of that is over here. Okay. Now, if I turn on my turn signal, it's just a regular turn signal, right? Wasn't expecting that. But if I'm in drive, okay, then I hit my turn signal, you're going to see a small camera lighting up over here. The same over here if I'm using this, and you can actually clearly see another gravity going out of picture. So there are different modes that you can use. Right now it's in its top mode, Sprint, and that is akin to something super high performance in this league. Think Lamborghini Urus or the Aston Martin or something really, really high end in terms of like, a super powerful SUV. That would be in terms of this performance thing. So it lowers and stiffens, changes the steering, braking. All of those things are changed for Sprint. Swift is sort of a mid-level. Think Porsche Cayenne. That is in terms of the softness of the ride and everything else, response to the steering, that's where it goes to. And then Smooth, well, that's pretty logical. That makes the steering a little lighter and at the same time changes the amount of effort that goes into brake pedal, acceleration, and of course changes the way the car rides. And the air suspension in this particular model, as such, makes sense that it is a very gentle ride in Smooth mode. And then you can change your regenerative braking. If you go to high, it's basically like one pedal. I think it's a little bit of a rollout, but it's pretty simple. And then ride height. Now you can either program it to change with these different settings, or you can mess around with it yourself, going from the lowest setting, which I think is about 5.3 inches, to well over 9 inches in its highest mode, and that would be for off-roading and whatnot. But you can drive it around in its highest mode daily if you want to, but you will not be as efficient. Then you have these mirror modes here, okay? Right and left mirror. Not a big fan of this. This makes things a little bit more complex to set that. You can also do that with your head-up display. You can use this to set it. And then steering. You can actually adjust the steering wheel. I'm going to give you a quick example of this. So I'm going to adjust this. Now, in order to do that, now that I'm in this mode, I'm using this side panel. Does this look familiar to you? Because this is something similar to what Polestar uses. I'm not a huge fan of this. Some of you will argue, well, you only have to use it once or twice in its entire lifetime. I say that there are many people that could drive one car, then this would be a bit tiring, okay? Same thing with the mirrors. You actually select which mirror you want to move. In this case, I'm going to move that mirror, meaning that I'm going to use this control thing here to swipe around and get it to move. I just think that it's a lot easier to have something that's like in a door panel where you can just, they've been doing that for years and it works just fine. Then on this side of the steering wheel, you have different controls, and these controls change a variety of different things in terms of driver's aid, and that is what this is for. You can also play with the seats. The seats have a variety of different types of, I've got this on now and it actually feels pretty good. Unwind, rolling, wave, stretch, deep. Very, very good massage system. One that you might even be able to hear right now because it is vibrating like crazy. Woo! Yeah, this is good stuff. I'm going to shut that off. And so you can play with that as well. So the seating surface is very comfortable, and the massaging system really easy to use once you get into the screen. You don't have to sit there and play with any of the controls on the side. One positive is that they have a volume control knob here. I am actually very happy about that. I would prefer a proper knob as opposed to this setup, but still, it's something. And then all the other controls are down here, and they do have actual buttons down here for fan speed and temperature. I'm very grateful for that as well. That works quite well. One more thing while I'm here. Look at this. This whole thing here, which has wireless, you can move it and store stuff down here as well, but then you lose your cup holders. You want your cup holders? And then you gotta open it. I get it. They're space, it's constraint. They have to find a way to make it work, and this is one way to make it work. However, the majority of people out there, I would imagine, would probably keep their stuff like in cup holders and whatever, and they would find it a bit of a bother to have to move this around in order to access this. And yes, you have storage down here too. Let's see if I can open that so you can see it. It's actually a pretty decent amount of storage. Some of you guys may love this and some of you guys may not, and that has to do with this window design. Now, technically speaking, this is all one piece of glass going from all the way down there, all the way to up here. In some ways, it's kind of shades of the Cybertruck in terms of that giant, huge piece of glass where they have these visors placed midway. Now, the big difference here is that you do have this fairly tinted chunk of glass here, but there's no shade or anything that blocks this, that comes down. So if the sun is directly above you, it's going to be shining directly above you. You can block the sun a little bit using this, but not entirely. So that's something to keep in mind, because that is something that some people will like and some people may not. I leave it up to you to figure out whether or not this is indeed a direct competitor to vehicles that are built by Lexus and Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and what have you. But I will say this, I am surprised with what they were able to package in this vehicle. And coming up in the very near future, we're not only going to be having a driving impressions video, but we're going to actually take this off-road. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.